The Florida Gators have added 3 commitments to their class this week, and they're probably not done yet. And yes, you are allowed to be excited about that.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI.com. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Hayden Hansen will be joining us for the final 2 segments of the show. But first, we are going to talk about this recruiting class because it is something that, you know, I've never been shy about the fact that I do go on Twitter quite a bit. I am on there. I am active with our insiders who, if you're not part of the insider program and you want to be a part of the insider program, the link's in the description below. We are getting ready for recruiting and staff stuff. But I do see that, yes, Florida has landed 3 commitments in the past 3 days prior to today, of course, in Tramel Jones, the quarterback, in Stefan Shivers on the defensive line, and in Daniel Pierre Lewis on the offensive line. And I see all the people going, oh, Daniel Pierre Lewis is a 3-star. I don't care. Stefan Shivers is a 3-star at most standings. I don't care. I understand both sides, but here's the important thing to remember, and I'm not trying to be sunshine pumpery. It's perfectly fine to celebrate recruits and commits, even if they're 3 stars and you look down on that. The kid that we're going to be joined by in the final 2 segments was a 3-star, and he's currently your starting tight end and one of the best blocking tight ends in the country and an underrated receiver, right? But I understand both sides, right? I understand not being excited and I understand not wanting to celebrate it, but at the same time, progress is progress, right? And we celebrate progress here. That's something that I've always said. I know I got the comments yesterday about it. Aren't you the guy that was mad about the recruiting class? Yeah. And then there's been progress made. So I will celebrate progress because progress is progress. You don't want a class of 3 stars because historically high volume 3 stars won't work out. I know that there are outliers, but historically 3 stars are 3 stars for a reason. And that's an important part of acknowledging that, yes, you don't want a class full of 3 stars, but that doesn't mean every time you land a 3-star or 2, you have to go, ugh, gross, 3-star. Like, that's just silly, right? You look at a guy like Stefan Shivers, and yeah, he might not be great. You know, he's 6'4.5", 6'5", 380 pounds. He might not be great. I've heard multiple people say that they coached in Tennessee and aren't big fans of him. That's fine. Like he has elite size that you can't teach anywhere else. 6'5", almost 380 is giant. He's got athletic traits. He's a raw piece, and he's at the bottom of your defensive line class. Like he's below Jeremiah McLeod. He's below Jalen Wiggins. He's your 3rd defensive lineman, position-wise, in the class. That's a fine person to take a swing on. He's got elite traits you can't teach. That's a fine person to take toward the bottom of the class. Daniel Pierre Lewis, 3-star. He's your only offensive lineman commit right now, but ideally, he's not going to be your highest ranked offensive line commit. He should be at the bottom of your class, and that's a fine addition as well. 6'4", 290 right now. That's a fine addition to the class. Like it doesn't mean every 3-star is bad. Again, historically, you don't want a ton of 3 stars, but that doesn't mean every 3-star is bad. However, that doesn't mean to think of it as, oh, so then every 3-star is good. Like there has to be, because there's also way more 3 stars than anything else. I know that there's a bunch of, I saw people on Twitter, actually, historically, the NFL has a lot of 3 stars because there's more 3 stars than anything else. No duh that the NFL is going to have them. There's more of them, significantly more of them. Okay? Look at percentages, and you're not going to have the same number, right? But that doesn't mean every 3-star is going to be an outlier, and you don't want to bank on an outlier. So, yeah, there's going to be some of these 3-stars won't work out. That's just a fact. But again, they're 3-stars for a reason. They're supposed to be when you're the University of Florida. They're supposed to be at or near the bottom of your recruiting class. They're supposed to be filling in gaps. And the way that Florida approaches 3-stars, I'm honestly fine with it. Miles Johnson doesn't have elite size, doesn't have elite film, but he's got athletic traits that can make him, that give him a higher ceiling, right? Stefan Shivers does have elite size, doesn't have elite film, but he's got the traits that you can't teach that make him a good addition, right? Micah Jones, I look at him as this year's Hayden. He's not the same size nearly. I mean, Hayden's 6'7 3/4 and like 255 or something like that. Micah Jones still in that same weight range, but he's 6'4". He's way more of the inline blocking tight end. Those guys are almost never going to be 5-stars and high 4-stars. They're not, because the guys that are willing to get grittier in the blocking game usually aren't getting the glamour and the big stats and popping off like that. Micah Jones, I thought was a great addition. I was a huge fan of Micah Jones' film. I mean, you got him over Ole Miss. Everyone praises what Ole Miss does on offense. Everyone praises what Ole Miss does with their tight ends as well. And you got a kid that Ole Miss wanted there. Daniel Pierre Lewis, like I mentioned, has the elite size. Chad Gasper, 5'11", 195, not elite size, not elite traits. I think he's got really good vision, and he plays in an offense that puts him in similar positions that Florida will put their running backs in. He's a guy that I look at as maybe he doesn't have a super high ceiling, but I think he's got a really high floor. And so it's a good addition. Like you can celebrate 3-stars. I feel like, and here's the thing, we're also not even talking about the depth chart today, because one, I think Florida got it really right last week. I'm happy with the way that the rotations worked out for the most part, considering, injuries here and there. But like, again, you look at Jeremiah McLeod. Jeremiah McLeod is someone that is getting Georgia flip predictions, right? Do you think he's bad? The defensive lineman that Georgia wants? Tayshawn Gelsey is a 3-star by half of the recruiting services. You think he's bad? No, that's silly, right? Because it is silly. But I hate the idea that we can't celebrate 3-stars. Again, 3-stars aren't going to make your class jump in a massive way. 3-stars shouldn't be the bulk of your class. But when we're talking about improving and progress and adding depth, I especially don't want to hear about anybody complaining about 3-stars when we saw how injuries just ravaged through this team in the middle of the season. Starting a preferred walk-on transfer redshirt freshman quarterback from Yale because you didn't have quarterback depth. If you had a 3-star, you'd have at least had that. We've seen far too many times where injuries pile up and then you're left with a lack of quality depth. And whenever we point that out, people bring up, well, in the NIL era, it's hard to have blue chips everywhere. That's exactly why you need 3-stars there. They are going to be the depth of your program. That's a fine thing. That's a good thing. And Florida, I think, does a pretty good job of adding legitimate quality depth at 3-star, legitimate quality 3-star talent. They add guys where they go, hey, you've got a lot of traits that we want. We coach you up a bit, and then you're going to be really quality here. And that's what you should be doing. So for all of the criticism that I will give Florida and all of the criticism that Billy Napier and this staff deserve, I don't think that this is one of those areas where it's justifiable. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make, it feels like stargazing, and that's just not how you should build a program. We've seen that fail time and time again. You add not quality blue chip players, and it just doesn't work out like that. We've seen it happen. We're about to be joined by Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end, when we get back with Locked On Gators. Look, I love a great deal as much as the next guy. I do. But I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals, and I'm not going to watch Florida State and Charleston Southern go at it just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, we called them on it. It turns out really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. And the longest part of the process is going to be how long you spend on hold waiting to break up with your old provider. It's fine. Your old provider is toxic. Not cuffing material anyway. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Joining me now for Locked On Gators is Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end, and we're going to get right down to the nitty-gritty about things. What grade would you give Billy Napier's gritty? Because we know that Jack Pyburn gave him a grade. His kids, he said, he was giving him grades and feedback. And if anyone else graded in that locker room, I need to know who was the best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm going to give him a 10 just because he never really does stuff like that, And I thought I was the only one that remembered, but he did say, I think it was maybe January or something. Someone had made a joke in a team meeting, and he was like, hit the gritty. He was like, I'll tell you what, we beat LSU at home. I'll gritty you as long as you want me to. And someone brought it up at the end of the game, and he hit it, and I'm sure you all saw the reactions. We weren't expecting that, but I give it a 10.
All right, I got to give him a 10 for the effort there. And I want you to know this. Here's my thought on it, because I know that he said, like someone had mentioned it, and then like I said it earlier, and someone mentioned it, and so that I'm telling you, I think he practiced it. I think during the bye week he was like, you know what, I need to hit this hard. Like if we beat LSU, I need to hit this hard. Boys are playing right. Like I need to be ready for it. And so I'm going to say that I think Billy Napier practiced it there. And I have to ask you, how did that win feel? Because I could tell you, the fan base, we were ecstatic afterwards. It was a great game, a hell of a win. Just how did it feel from the player perspective?
Yeah, man, it felt relieving, or we felt relief just because, there's a lot of guys in there that have been on this team for a while and haven't beat LSU. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the last time we beat them was 2018.
Yeah,
I was a freshman in high school. That's crazy. So, obviously being the team to do that, to break the streak or curse, whatever you want to call it, is pretty rewarding, And that was one of our more complete games. We've got some key pieces back like Badger and Lagway, but that's obviously no excuse when we were without him. But we got some pieces back, and we executed. I think we only had like 3 MAs the whole game on offense, which is insane. But that just shows you what this team can do when we go and play lights out.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'd appreciate if you can kind of help myself and the other listeners for, I guess we'll call it clarification here, but the offense was barely on the field. Like it was just, in terms of time of possession, LSU had the major advantage, but that is, you guys either scored quickly or were kicking quickly. Of the 9 full drives, so excluding the kneel downs at the end of the half and to end the game, only 2 drives for you guys went more than 5 plays. What does that do rhythm-wise, where you guys come out, handle business pretty quickly, and then you're off the field for 5+ game minutes, which equates to 10+ actual minutes? So what does that do just rhythm-wise for you guys?
Yeah, when you look at it, the time of possession is way out of whack. They had way more snaps. It just shows you that we had more explosive plays, and we didn't need to be on the field as much, And obviously we get a lot of rest when we do that. Defense showed up and shut them down. And they also had a lot more, too, just because our defense played lights out. The only area that Napier said we could improve on was like the third down conversions. That's the only reason why those long drives happened in the first place,
Yeah, and even that, at one point, LSU is 10 for 13 on third down and finished 13 for 24. So even then, there was a massive change where they went 3 of their last 11. So it's not like it was a consistent thing. But yeah, you guys just, again, that was one hell of a game. I do have to put you a little bit on the spot here, because this was a conversation that many of our listeners were having with myself. Do you think that this is one of Billy Napier's either best or biggest wins as the head coach of the Florida Gators?
Yeah, I would say so. And it kind of just goes, not even just has to do with him. The last time we beat the team was 2018, That's pretty significant. I mean, they're ranked. They were a ranked team. Looking at the media, the stuff we're looked down upon as like an average team, and obviously we don't feel like we are that way. So going out there and proving it after a game we had against Texas like that, to turn around and beat another ranked team at home. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty significant win, not just for him, but for all of us that have been here. You know, that one has definitely felt the best, if not better than like beating Utah in that last second pick or just games like that. So.
Yeah, I feel like that's the other game I keep coming down to of Utah or this game against LSU, just because, I mean, also I know that obviously the players don't follow recruiting nearly as much, but a lot of recruits were on campus for this one, and it was a very heavy game in terms of just the weight that it carries with them. So that was just a massive game. And I mean, they also got to witness the Swamp at probably its best that it's been in a long time. I mean, what was the atmosphere like for you guys on the field? Because obviously I was home watching the game, but it just sounded nuts. Like it just sounded like it's been louder than it's been in a long time. So just what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, we feed off that stuff, you know, and the fans were definitely causing problems with their offense. And I mean, it was evident, you know, and we're going to need all we can get this week too. I mean, we're going to have our hands full with Ole Miss coming in. They have one of the best D lines, or front seven that we've played probably since Georgia. They're talented, man. Obviously, Princely's a well-known guy. He used to play for us. They got some other guys, and they're interior guys. I mean, they can all rush the passer too. So it's things we got to prepare for, and definitely need that crowd to be deafening up their offense too. So.
Yeah, we'll talk Princely in a minute. Obviously, we won't go too in depth on that all there, but I'd like it if you can walk me through this little, we'll say 2-play sequence here that was essentially the dagger in this game. A few minutes left in the fourth. There's like 5 minutes left. You get your first target in what felt like decades. It's been a long while, but you get your first target, 19-yard gain, and then Jaden Ball's 55-yard rushing touchdown, where it's just like the moment he broke out, it was just like, oh, he's gone. It was clear that they weren't catching him, which also is great because I saw people tweeting during the game that they were like, he's just not explosive like that. And then he gets the 55-yard touchdown there. If I'm not mistaken, on that run, you kind of walled off the defender to the inside, and you were the first teammate in to celebrate with what wound up being the dagger. So can you walk me through just the dagger drive there for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, when we called that pass play for me, I knew I was going to get it because their two backers splitting out. They went with the motion. So I knew there was going to be a soft spot. I ran it a little shorter, but I just was so open. I just wanted to put it on me now. And he did. And then we called that next play. And I think after that catch, it already took a lot of breath out of that defense. And then that next play, I was like, all right, if we can block this up, we got him. And climbed up to my guys. I knew I had a good block. I was just praying that the O-line did their thing, and they did. And all of a sudden, I just hear 100,000 people screaming my ear off. I'm like, yep, all right, we just won. So that's where I let him go too. I was like, I'm not holding him here. I'm done.
Yeah, that was. I saw you just. Nope, I'm when he's by, I'm out. It was an incredible drive there, and you just mentioned, you ran it a little shorter. Do you guys have like freedom with that? Of if you think there's going to be a soft spot, you can kind of just stop it a little bit shorter, or is it usually stricter there?
It's pretty strict, but I mean, times like that where it's just like, just in case, like, because if you had pressure and I ran it all the way, you didn't have time, just being safe with that game on the line like that. So
maybe gift giving isn't your love language. You overthink it and wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. You keep yourself in a situation where it's last minute, right? You're buying something for someone that seems unpleasable. A lot of people might be like that. I'm going to point you at our friends at Skylight Frames, right? Super easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. They're seamless sharing, so you can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription required. So you can, I don't know, let's say you get Skylight Frames from mom, you and all the siblings, you set it up, you have the frame, you can all add pictures and share photos that you want there, and set it up for her so she could always see just the family, right, walking by. Beautiful. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you can get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/college. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/college. FanDuel.com/college. And you can get ready to take on the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Like last night, Dennis Schroeder had 6 assists in the first 10 minutes of the game. Maybe you go, you know what? Yeah, I will bet him to get 10 assists. You can do that. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I also have to ask you, because I mentioned recruiting before. From a player perspective, do you guys ever really pay attention? I know you don't pay attention so much to specifics because there's thousands of college kids that are talked about and hundreds that are talked about with Florida. But do you guys ever pay attention to when Florida kind of goes on a commitment run like they've gone on these past few days? Because, landed a commitment on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday now. So is that ever a thing where you guys kind of pay attention to that?
I'll see it on Twitter every now and then, but I don't think most of us talk about it unless we hosted a kid we know. Obviously, we were all up to date on DJ Lagway last year. That was really about it, though. I've hosted a couple of kids over the summer I stay in touch with, but if I don't know the kids, I don't really keep up. There's so many of them. But by the time they get here, I'll forget about who they are until I see them in person.
Yeah. I can only imagine having to deal with so many of them coming in there. But moving forward to this week, you mentioned Ole Miss, big game. What's the messaging been from the coaching staff after a huge win against LSU and then this week against Ole Miss, where bowl eligibility is on the line? I don't know how much into rumors you guys pay attention to it as players, but the most commonly tied to name with Florida was, or from the Florida fans, was, let's go get Lane Kiffin. What was a big thing there. And now you guys have the opportunity to reach bowl eligibility while facing Lane Kiffin. So just what's the messaging like from the coaching staff, where it seems like there's a lot of external factors around?
Yeah, so Napier's first message this week was earn the right to win. He's been saying that over and over again. He's like, I want each and every one of you to imagine a camera crew following you around, like a documentary style, every day. And he's like, at the end of after this game, win or lose, we're going to play each of y'all's tape back like a movie. We're going to watch it, and we're going to see if each of y'all earned the right to win. What did y'all do outside the facility, inside the facility? How'd you spend your time? So that's kind of the message this week. And another thing is, he was saying Ole Miss has all the pressure on them. They're hoping for the playoffs and stuff like that. And he basically just told us why can't we create our own playoff mindset? Why can't we play like they're playing? Let's create our own. Let's win these last 2 games and then win the bowl game and have a bunch of momentum going into the next season with all these young guys that have stepped up. He's like, why not create our own sense of urgency in the playoff world? He's like, we can do all those things. So,
yeah. And I know that we've mentioned playing former Gators before, but this is really the first time, if I'm not mistaken, that you get to go kind of head to head against another former Gator there. Because, you guys played Texas A&M and there were opportunities against other Gators. You guys played against Georgia, but obviously you're a tight end, so you're not going up against Trevor Etienne at all there. And he left pretty early from that game there. But you guys faced transfer out in Princely Umanmielen. Do you look forward to that a little bit, where you actually get to go head to head against someone who essentially left the team for whatever playoff contention he wanted to go for, that he felt he can get there, coaching, whatever it was?
Yeah, Princely's a hell of a player, and if I can block him, I can block anybody. So it'll be fun to go up against him. I used to go up against him in practice, so it'll be fun. We're gonna go at it. He does a lot of guys. I say when he left was probably the biggest time people left, but most people that are still here knew him and played with him, so it'll be fun.
And I do have to ask also, this is the last last home game of the season for you guys this weekend. I know Cam Jackson has already sent out his tweet of my last home game is a Gator. Let's make it a big one. Does it mean anything for you specifically of having this be the last home game of 2024 for you guys?
Yeah, man. I mean, you just never know when it'll be your last, so you got to take it all in like it is your last time, like you're one of those seniors. And appreciate everything. Appreciate the fans. Appreciate the culture. Appreciate where you're at. And just go out and play your heart out.
And I'm assuming that after the game, or at some point, whether it was Saturday or Sunday, I'm assuming that you watched UFC 309. And I'm just curious what your thoughts were on UFC 309 or the absolutely horrid Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight that we had to watch on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that at the team hotel. I was feeling bad for Mike, man. Those legs looked weak. But going into the UFC 309, I don't think anyone was surprised. I think Jones was kind of playing with his food a little bit. Wanted to make it look a little closer. He did say in the press conference that it would take a miraculous bag of cash to fight Aspinall. Maybe Dana White comes up with it. Maybe he doesn't. I still think he'd duck either way. He wants Piera. I mean, Dana White said in his press conference that there's no way he's making that fight after he watched what he did to Miocic. So, I mean, hey, if he actually fights Aspinall and beats him, which I don't think he will, but if he beats him, then and Dana said he'll give him Piera. So.
Well, I mean, people hate him for no reason at all. He's never done anything negative. They just hate him for no reason at all.
Citizen role model.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw it, but John Jones tweeted an AI picture of a duck wearing the Yeah. So I think we know how that one's going to go. Probably not going to do it because he doesn't stand on business like that. But thank you so much, Hayden. This is Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end. Catch him every week on Locked On Gators and every Saturday playing for your Florida Gators. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. We will have Stephen Willis, Locked On Ole Miss, here for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I will see you all next time.